So, hi, good evening, Valerie, and thank you so much for meeting me. I know it's the midterm week, and you must have been really exhausted from all of the schoolwork. So, I just want to show gratitude for your time today. So, before we get started, I just want to make sure and clarify that you've already read and signed through the pre-interviews release form, and you are all fine with all of the um, like all the form is suggesting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I already read all those documents.
Okay, cool. So you agree that I will audio record this interview and it will be later added and maybe published for like just educational purpose for this course. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think now we are going to start the questions for today. So before we get into anything that's like deep, so would you mind just tell me what's your name and pronouns? So just give me a brief introduction about yourself, where do you go to school, and some just other general information about yourself so we can get a little bit more about you before we get started.
Okay, sure. So my name is Xin Yin, and this is my Chinese name. And usually in school, I go by Valerie. So I'm a junior student studying advertising and film right now. Yeah, it's like my third year in America.
Mhm. Great, thank you. So you go to Boston University, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So can you tell me a little bit more about your name and where its origins are? So what does it mean? Like what's the like literal meaning of your Chinese name Xin Yin, as you just mentioned?
Yeah, sure. So my Chinese name actually Xin Yin is just like a pronunciation. It's actually two Chinese character. And for my last name, it's actually just the same as my father and my grandfather's last name. And for my first name, when my parents gave this first name to me, they search, actually they like look up the dictionary and then they try to find some meaningful characters in Chinese. And my first name Xin in Chinese, this character is actually I think it can be pronounced in several ways. And the one that I'm using right now, it's actually different from the one they gave me originally. So the one they gave me originally, the meaning is like, simply speaking, it's like to be a good student, or not just in like academic ways, but also like in every aspect of your life, like to
Mhm.
be good and to be maybe hardworking and like diligent to all of your schoolwork. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think basically it just means like to be a good student.
Mhm.
But just more story to add on. Actually, they changed the pronunciation like after my kindergarten, because like the character for my name is actually not that common in Chinese character. So like they just like they like since my kindergarten, one of my kindergarten teacher like mispronounced it, so they just change it to another pronunciation, but actually they can have the same meaning, like just basically good student, to be a good student and be happiness, I think.
Mhm. So I'm just gonna paraphrase a little bit and see if I understand you correctly. So basically you haven't changed the like the written form of your name. So you haven't like your parents haven't technically changed the like the writing and the like visual elements of it, but instead they are multiple ways to pronounce the like the last name they give to you, which is like a single character word in Chinese. Is that correct? So may I ask what was the original pronunciation of the letter of your
Yeah, sure.
name?
The original pronunciation is called Shen, Shen, and yeah, so that was the original pronunciation that has that meaning.
Mhm.
But yeah, later I just changed it to another pronunciation.
So was that more of a so like after kindergarten, was that more of your idea, your opinion to change the pronunciation of it, or is it more of your parents' opinion?
I think it's more of my parents' opinion because at that time I actually don't know because that's and like a uncommon character to know. So especially when we're young, like we just don't know what that should be pronounced. So and also like they think like Xin sounds better than Shen in Chinese.
Mhm.
Yeah, so later they just changed that.
Okay, great. Thank you for all of the information and short stories you've told. And I would like to move on and ask, is there any I mean, do you feel connected to your name? And do you feel like you've ever feel you're isolated by your name? Because you did mention that your kindergarten teacher mispronounced your name. Like back then, did you have like a general idea like your name, like your original pronunciation should be Shen, right? So when they mispronounce it, do you still remember feeling anything about it?
Yeah, actually that like my experience towards my name was not very good because like first of all it's like an uncommon character for many people and they just don't know how to pronounce my name, especially when we are going to school, like teachers always do like attendance and they just shout out your name like in front of all your classmates. And then especially when we're young, like your classmates may make jokes on you
Mhm.
because of your name. And also, one thing to add on is that if you pronounce my name in Shen in Chinese, so if you call me like Yin Shen, it's like it can be. It's like it has a similar pronunciation to invisible in Chinese. So at
Uh-huh.
that time, I just had a lot of not that good experience that people just mispronouncing my name or they just make jokes about my name or even like many teachers or other like teachers when they call my name, they just call it wrong. So yeah, that was like sometimes I feel like if my parents give me a simpler name to pronounce or maybe a simpler, easier to look character,
Mhm.
I won't have all these like bad experience.
Right. So, like, as what I'm hearing is that you had a lot of like not so pleasant and sometimes even kind of like bullying, that kind of experience by the original pronunciation of your name. So probably that's why your parent recognized that they don't want you to probably be like seen or make jokes of like being symbolized with invisible. Is that what you were saying? So the like the pronunciation of your original name is basically exactly the same as invisible if like kids they don't know anything about it and they just want to mispronounce it and make jokes and
Yeah.
give you like nicknames that you completely do not want. Is that something that you just don't
Yeah.
really like about? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. I think that is really personal and I just want to say that yeah, it means a lot that you're opening up and sharing all of the story with us. So how does your name influence you as a person, and in what ways would you feel like that influence you the most? I think not because like I want to hear more about what do you think about your name probably like after they change the pronunciation of it. So they change it from Shen to Xing, right? So do you feel like that got like not as mispronounced as before, or do you still get the same kind of trouble because again, you didn't change how it seems. It's just like it can be pronounced both way if I understand it correctly, right? So maybe
Mhm.
people who know some like common words related to like shen will still call you in shen when they first see you. And do you correct them or do you tell them the story again? And what do you feel like your name influence you, like influence your personality, academic or life goals potentially? Is there any stories or thoughts that you want to share related to that?
Sure. So actually, after my parents changed my pronunciation, I think that definitely like reduced some of the trouble I met, especially when people ask me like, how should I pronounce your name? What's the right pronunciation? I would just explain to them like, okay, you can call me Xin. So they will say, okay, that makes sense, because like if you're called invisible, that's kind of like not that good, like not sounds good. So I think that definitely like reduce some of it. And also back to what I think, like what I personally think my name, or what kind of meaningful thing I think through my name. I think it's like one thing that my parents mentioned to me, why they give me like two characters instead of three characters in my Chinese name, is because like they feel like that I can call. So when people call you, if it's like a two character name, you feel more friendly in some way, because like sometimes like your parents call your like call your name, like they won't call your full name, because like they feel like that's kind of too
Distancing or something like that, not so
yeah.
intimate. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like, right. Just like you said, it's like more intimate to maybe have a two character name. And like also like after, actually like when I go to high school and just like after primary school, I feel like my classmates or my friends, they just kind of like they won't make all that jokes to me anymore. So when I think back all these experience, it's actually interesting that my parents may have some hope on me towards like how I can have happiness and how I can study well. Actually, like all these two meanings
Mhm,
are like also important to me in my maybe later life.
mhm,
Yeah, I actually definitely just like go through the way that how like in like for some Chinese traditional students
mhm,
before I came to America, we just emphasize study or emphasize academic a
mhm,
lot. So yeah, I think that's one of the way that my name kind of influenced me.
mhm.
Yeah.
So, would you mind expanding a little bit more on like, what is it like? What does your name means to you? Like more than study, more than academic life after you came to America? Does that relate? Because you mentioned it doesn't only represents the hope of your parents that they want you to be a good student, but also they want you to have the happiness in the world, right? So, do you feel like maybe like the happiness part get like shown more or like needed more or like you're like motivated by that part more when you came to the state?
Yeah, I think definitely the happiness part kind of influenced more, because I realized, especially after I grow up, I realized that many parents, they may like push a lot when their children are studying, or they give a lot of pressure on their children, just because in China, like many students, their only way to be success is to pass all those exams and to get good grades on their exams. But like my parents always tells me, we want you to be have happiness first, more than you just be a good student. So I just feel like when like after I grow up, so the happiness part stands out more in my life, yeah, compared to the to be a good student.
Definitely. Probably they want you to see like the good student part as you've explained also to not only be a good student at school or at work. So just like be like this kind of like good motivated like person, like just have that kind of like hardworking attitude toward life. So probably I think that's like the kind of like the takeaway shift or like changes like you actually gain more as you mature and as you became an adult and come to study in the United States. So, do you have any nicknames when you were growing up? So, you mentioned that your parents think that like a two character Chinese names are better or like shows more intimacy when they call you. Like that's something I think not like uncommon, but that's something kind of unique as well. So do you think
Mhm.
that their viewpoint comes from, I don't know, like your family traditions or like from your regions, from is that something that we can expect in the whole like Chinese culture, or is that something that's specifically regional or family styled?
I guess it's more of my family style, just like in terms of how they think the two character name shows more intimacy. But
Mm,
like I feel like almost all Chinese parents they gave their children a nickname. Like myself, I also have a nickname. My nickname name is called like Xiao Xiao. So it's like um the meaning of it is just like small because
mm,
when I was born, I my size is really small. So yeah, that's the reason why they call me this. And usually I think for many parents, like Chinese parents, they call their child at home just by a nickname. Yeah.
mhm. So do your parents still call you your full name as they think it's like a way to show more intimacy, or do they call you by Xiao Xiao, your nickname, more like right now?
Yeah, I think they call me by like my nickname. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
what they think would be better for me is like when your teacher call you
Mhm.
a two character name that shows more intimacy. Yeah.
I see. So more of a like a general kind of like idealistic instead of like what they want to call you. So more as
Mhm.
how your name, how the two characters' names is shown or like demonstrated to like the outsiders, maybe. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So you just have one nickname, right? So there's no other like nicknames they call you, like in Chinese or like in English. So like as you said, like you apparently have like an English name, and do they know about like how you come up with your English name? Did your parents or anyone else take part in the like decision making of like choosing an English name, or who picked that English name for you?
I picked my English name for my just by myself because I before I went to high school in America, I picked an English name just because I feel like it's more convenient or it's better
Mhm.
for foreign like American teachers or professors to pronounce it. Yeah, instead like if I'm called by my Chinese name, I feel like I need to explain to them every time when they call my name. Yeah.
So basically, just as like a kind of convenience sake, that's why you chose Valerie as your English name. So do Valerie has any special meanings to you, or like how did you came up with the process of picking Valerie as your like final name?
Um,
Or not really?
I've actually not really, but after I picked this name, I searched its meaning,
Mhm,
and I think one of its meaning is courage. I
mhm,
feel like that just after I picked this name, I feel like this meaning is also good to me because like especially one thing that connects to me is that especially after I came to high school here, I feel like we need to have more courage to maybe say our opinion out loud
mhm.
compared to when I'm studying in China. Maybe sometimes we just sit there and listen to teachers. But in America, I feel like we can have a more open communication or we can just tell our opinions all the time. So I feel like it's kind of somewhat the meaning I give it to it. It's like the courage to say your opinion out loud. Yeah.
Basically engage more in active discussions instead of like sitting there passively and just like listen and like write down notes. So basically,
Yeah.
can I probably interpret it as your transition? So basically motivated and encouraged and obviously accompanied your first transition when you came to the States. So kind of like this kind of mindset switch that you're switching from like a to a very drastically different education system, and you want yourself to blend in probably better in the American system. Is that something?
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Good to know that. And so now you mainly like, because we are studying in the United States, right? So mainly you still go by Valerie when in all of the courses you're taking right now in college, or you're just like meeting friends like obviously like non-Chinese friends, right? Because like for your Chinese friends, um you will still be more willing to be referred in your Chinese name or your English name, just for like the whole like the collectivist community. So for Chinese community.
I guess like first, people like for my Chinese friends, they will call like we will call each other English name at the very first time we meet each other. But I feel like when we get closer to each other or be more familiar with each other, we just like use Chinese name because that sounds also like I feel like when you are called by your original name, it
Mhm.
like brings more intimacy
Oh,
to.
great. So basically, in your first encounter and your first introduction with just like new peoples in general, you will still introduce yourself as Valerie. And then later on, if they have a similar kind of cultural background or like just similar linguistic background, then you'll probably be open up more and more prefer that they call you by your Chinese name. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Great, great. So do your have you ever been like like has your name ever been mispronounced after you came to the state? Like obviously some professors like still cross out like the legal name on their roster because that's still the name you put in like when you register for a course, right? Like your legal name instead of like your nickname, like your English name in this case. So would they make a mistake or how often does that happen or like nearly never?
I think it happens sometimes, like instead of sing, like they call us sing or just a little bit mispronouncing, but I feel like they will always ask you, expect like for many professors, I think when they see a foreign name, they will always ask you like, how should I pronounce it?
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel like that's kind of like not that often.
Not often happen. It's just like minimum or like very small mistakes that you
Yeah.
feel like you're completely fine with because like later on if um you would just introduce yourself by your English name and then the sort of confusion kind of thing will not just happen.
Yeah, right.
Okay, great. So this is more of a like your holistic view because you didn't really experience the chance like in America of like being mispronounced. So do you think that the deliberate mispronunciation of name counts as a sort of like microaggression? Do you personally feel like that statement is true or like how do you justify?
Um, I think it kind of when you say microaggression, can you explain more on that?
Yeah, sure. So, basically, microaggression can be sometimes implicit, so they don't seem to be like directly aggressive toward like you by calling you like when they see like a foreign name. So
Mhm.
they do not just like act aggressively and like make jokes about like how because they don't know how to pronounce it and they just like make fun of the name and pronounce it as weirdly or as funny they want. No, but they maybe like for example, if you're just like like reading out names from a roster, they're just doing it is in the same tone, but because they don't know how to pronounce it, maybe they will just like try to like deliberately just like mispronounce it by like whatever the way they want in the same tone, maybe like in the same explicit attitude, but like maybe implicitly, do you feel like this is a kind of like microaggression, that kind of like implicit kind
Yeah.
of aggressiveness toward like a mispronunciation?
Okay, yeah, I understand that.
Mhm.
So I feel like a little bit, because like relate to me myself, sometimes I pronounce like other maybe English name wrong, especially like one experience I have is that this semester I have a part-time job at BU Telephone. So
Mhm.
it's basically a job that we need to call some BU alumni or parents to have a phone call with them.
Mhm.
And so during the phone call, sometimes like when their information bump up and they have their first name and last name list there, and the first thing you need to say is to like, may I speak to blah blah blah, and then I need to pronounce their name. But for a lot of times, I just don't know how I should pronounce their name correctly,
Mhm.
especially for some names that are pretty long. So as for myself, I feel like when I don't know how to pronounce their name, or maybe I just mispronounce, I feel like that's bad, like as me, because I feel like if I am them, like I were in the position of them, I feel like that can be like you said, that can be a micro aggression in some way.
Mhm.
Like I feel like no one will feel completely comfortable, or they just don't have any feeling when your name is pronounced wrong by someone else, especially even though like we know sometimes it's hard to pronounce it. So I guess it's more from the, if I am the one who pronounce it wrong, I feel bad. But if I'm the one who, like, my name is pronounced wrong by others, I feel like, okay, I will try to understand them. So I feel like maybe it's more of the perspective, or
Right,
the perspective
right.
you are standing in, yeah, that makes you have different feelings.
It just sounds to me that you are just very empathetic and you really are great at just like standing in like other people's shoes and seeing things from their view. So maybe some slight discomfort feelings will like just pops up, but you won't regard them as like, oh, they're doing this deliberately. They're just like trying to pick up on me because they think I'm Asian, they think I'm Chinese or something like that. You would maybe in this case think more kind of like goodness of people and think that maybe they just don't do it like deliberately, or you wouldn't take them like take the mispronunciation as harsh as maybe some other people when they see as a more like microaggression. Do I get
Yeah,
it right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And also like, especially I feel like for some Chinese name or Korean name, I think
Mhm.
like people just don't pronounce that sound in their language. So for
Mhm.
some names they just even cannot pronounce it right. Just because in their language they don't pronounce that specific sound word.
Letters, for example, like age or something like that, that's just like silenced out in their
Yeah,
language, but they're just like written there. So when you translate things from like pinging or translate something in English characters and letters, that just like just hard. It's just impossible for people to get it at first sight. Like even if they tried, right? Is that what you're
yeah.
pinpointing? Okay, great. So are there certain scenarios where you decide to go like by just like a different name? Not like, I mean, here different name not necessarily mean the name you already have. So is there any, I mean, chance or any situations where you feel like, oh, this is like a new circumstance, or like this is a bunch of new people I'm stepping into. So how closely connect and how closely knit do you feel like you are with your name? So how do you think your name like represent yourself? Do you feel like, oh, I am the exact person as my name, right? So because sometimes we do get the idea that, oh, this person doesn't look like his or her name. You see what I'm like trying to get? So do you ever feel like you're not like closely tied with your name, or have you ever tried to just like in unfamiliar situations just go by a different name that no one else ever knows?
Um, I think I actually haven't think of that very much, but I feel like, especially for my English name, because especially when I came to America, I just know that okay, at this time I need to pick an English name because they're all called by English name in school, and
Mhm.
then I feel like that's more convenient for professors and for my classmates. Um, so I actually don't know, like especially for English, I cannot sense much about like how this name has a certain character
Mhm.
or personality. I mean,
Right.
like how they're like connected to the certain person. Yeah, I just feel like I don't feel that much, but for some, um, yeah, especially for English name, I feel like I just can sense that okay, maybe these kind of people should call by these kind of names.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just feel like they're just like symbols.
Right, right. So, I would just like to touch on something maybe more personally in this case. So, what about like in your own cases? Do you feel like your English name and like slash your Chinese name when you're being called that name? So you are completely like confident to like but not like inherit that name, but just to be called and respond by the media second that you were called. So you're just satisfied with like both your Chinese and English names right now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great, great, good to know. I think the last question we are going to put an end mark at is that, do you feel like your early, kind of like early foreign study experience shapes your kind of idea of like you should have like an English name because everyone else in my like new like education system just go by like an English first name, right? So do you feel like this sort of feeling will be like lessen or like faded out more in like student who came in like later and then go abroad? For example, if like, because you mentioned you started studying in the United States when you were in high school, right? So we
Yeah.
still see like a lot of like Chinese or like Asian students, they still put their legal hard to pronounce Chinese or like foreign names like in college. Do you feel like maybe the reason why you didn't do that is because you just like went abroad earlier? Could that possibly be an influence?
Yeah, I think that definitely would be one of the influence because like also like in my experience, some Asian students I met when they use their Chinese name,
Mhm,
most of them are not like they came to America when just like because they need to study in university, like
mhm,
after university, instead of like maybe going to America earlier because like in my high school we also have some Chinese students there and like I think all of them have their English name. I think that's one of the reasons that
right.
maybe if they're coming to America later, they may not want to pick their English name.
Right. So they may not just like pay that much attention or they don't want to blend in so perfectly or like so smoothly. So or they want to like retain the originality or like the cultural senses of their background, like when they're being referred to. That could be also like another explanation, right? So
Yeah, yeah, because like also I feel like because in university sometimes like either except when you're having some group work with other students,
mhm,
sometimes you don't even need to like socialize, I guess, like after classes if you don't choose to socialize. But in high school it's more like a community,
mhm.
like we always spend time with each other for the whole day in your class, so it's better like when we can all like pronounce our names like just fluently. Yeah,
And
I guess
correctly,
that's one of the reasons
right.
too.
Right. So basically, you don't want to like cause troubles for others to remember you, and you just want like a better experience in high school. And that's like the norm that people will do if they decided to study abroad earlier. So that could be one of the reason why that you
Yeah,
are very spontaneous with the switch of like being referred to like in your Chinese name or English name, that you can do both. But yeah, whatever is like more convenient for others, right?
yeah, yeah.
Great, great. Thank you so much for all of your answers. So, is there anything else you would like to the conversation for today?
I think that's I don't have any other questions or things I want to add.
Okay, great. Just to let you know that I will send you the post-interview publishing consent form right afterwards. So right
Mhm.
after we finish our meeting within a couple of hours, I'll send you that and please read that through and just respond back to me when you are at your convenience, then we can try to like move forward with how to edit the whole recorded audio of your interview. And I just want to say thank you so much for the more than half hour time you spent with me today. And it has been really a pleasure to meet with you and discuss a lot of, I know it can be a little bit sensitive because it's kind of personal. And I just want to show again gratitude for you being here with me. And I hope you have a good night and we'll just end it right here.
Thank you.
Thank you.